I read Gregory Bridgerton's book for the first time, and guess what? We might just have ourselves the show's very first himbo.
How many reps could you do with me?
40.
Hi, I'm LadyJenevia, and on my channel I talk about entertainment media. I have now read On the Way to the Wedding, which is Gregory Bridgerton's love story. If the Netflix series were to be renewed for seasons 7 and 8, then we would presumably see his and Hyacinth's story be adapted. However, they have not been renewed yet. Thus, this video is going to be an early introduction to Gregory's love story as it plays out in the book. It's a similar concept to the video I did somewhat recently for Hyacinth's book, but not approached in the exact same way because it's a different story. The purpose of this video is not to give a detailed plot summary of this book. We still have Eloise and Francesca's seasons to go through and cover, and at the rate Netflix delays every stage of renewal, development, production, it's going to be 12 years from now by the time we would see Gregory or Hyacinth have their own seasons.
It's been 84 years.
All I am really concerned with doing right now is giving an introduction to what these love stories are, some personality and behavioral characteristics, logistics of the plot, so that we might be on the lookout for things that could be done in the next 2.5 seasons to build Gregory into the leading man of a season that would adapt this book. Now, to be clear, even if they make it far enough on the show to reach Gregory's book canon, they might have a very different vision for what they would like to do with Gregory as a character and a love story of his own. Eloise's personality on the show has been very different from how she was characterized in her book, the primary difference being that Claudia is hilarious, so she can't help but infuse some of that into the DNA of Eloise on the show.
I take it the two of you? No?
Do not look at me.
Have you ever visited a farm? No.
Book Eloise never made me laugh, not even an amused exhale of air. Book Benedict's personality, ugh. Overbearing, toxic caveman. That's actually quite common in these books for the leading men of these love stories. But show Benedict? That's Monsieur Capybara. He's whimsical. He's got a twinkle in the eye.
Bit of foreplay, twinkle in the eye, the deed, pregnancy.
Here on this channel, we support libraries. These are all library books that I will be returning in March, which is when all of these are due. We read books, we do research, we divest from the social media industrial complex to spite billionaires and find something to read instead. Every minute of scroll time I take away from a billionaire, that is scroll time they cannot monetize for their financial benefit and other nefarious plans of theirs. May the Tulkuns give them the day they deserve.
Brother! It's my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, me too.
By the way, before we begin, let's do a quick reading check-in. What is everyone reading right now? I am reading Open Veins of Latin America by Eduardo Galeano. I cannot show you the front of this book because it's borrowed from a different library, so there is a sticker on the front with personal information on it. My library does have this book, but whomever borrowed it hasn't returned it, even though it was due back last year. It's very rude. Very inconsiderate. Libraries are a community resource. You need to think of the other readers and not just yourself.
Don't ever do that again, comrades. I'm a man with a fragile brain.
And I am also rereading Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus by Mary Shelley, because I am going to attend an IMAX press screening for The Bride.
Plus, I have a contraceptive sponge in my purse. It's enormous.
Now we are officially on the way to the wedding. But whose wedding? Well, the wedding of Gregory's happily ever after, of course. Except the groom of that wedding is not Gregory Bridgerton. So he is running to the church to try to stop this wedding, and he does interrupt it to loudly, publicly declare his love for the bride and propose marriage to her while she is standing at the altar to marry another man. Ladies and gentlethems, Gregory Bridgerton's book is the one for the part of the audience that wants a front row seat to mess, to a spectacle. Now, I do think that this would make for a really good opening for his season. In particular, if the rest of these love stories are told in the same order as the books, Gregory's season would be last. So if this is the final season of Bridgerton, do a big dramatic spectacle for the opening. Oftentimes, the prologue of the Bridgerton books don't end up matching the opening of the season that is adapting that particular book. But in this case, yes. Lean into the mess.
This is a smokeless garden.
Disruption.
One of the defining characteristics of Book Gregory is that he has a skewed perspective of love because he comes from an extremely uncommon background. That being a family where his 7 siblings are all married in love matches. Everyone is ridiculously happy in love with their spouse. That is not how things go for everyone in the ton. Now, I would be more sympathetic to that fact, but then I remembered that I read history books, and as such, I don't have sympathy for English aristocracy. They, and the systems of power that they created, are how we ended up with things like quotation marks Wuthering Heights and G'day Heathcliff. But that's not the rant you're here to see. I already published that review.
Our friendship is built on our mutual distrust of England.
Chapter 1 opens 2 months before the wedding interruption prologue. Gregory is described as being someone who does believe in true love because all of his siblings are quite happily besotted with their spouses. The book also describes him as having been born with an uncommonly cheerful, if occasionally, according to his younger sister, annoying spirit.
Look at your room, it's so much bigger. You got a painting? Wow, that's so red.
He is not described as being yet another annoying generic rake with a toxic caveman personality that we as readers are supposed to excuse because these books are set in the 1800s. He's nice, he's different, he's unusual. However, this skewed life perspective is such that he is operating under the misconception that he's going to more or less fall in insta-love whenever the right woman comes along.
Hey there, girlie. How you doing?
Sweating like a pig, actually, and yourself?
By the way, for the handful of characters I'm going to talk about that are new to this story, we will not be talking about all of the new characters simply because we're not going through this entire book story. I'm just going to be using placeholder images. I could have chosen actors that match the characters' ages in the book, but that actor who plays Gregory, his face is so young looking that I just chose actors who are similar in age range to him as he is at the current time of recording this video. When I made Hyacinth's introduction video, I used David Jonsson as a placeholder image for Gareth. Gareth in the book is 28 and David Jonsson is 32, but he also has a very youthful face, so I figured it wouldn't look as jarring to use his image in comparison to Hyacinth, who is still quite young on the show and in real life. And then I also used Giancarlo Esposito as Gareth's father because Giancarlo is Black Italian and the St. Clairs in the book are of mixed Italian ancestry, so that worked out perfectly. Gregory is 26 in his book. He isn't as sought after compared to what his older brothers had to deal with when they were navigating the Ton as unmarried men. Gregory is a 4th son, so it's not as high on the hierarchy. However, anytime dinner parties or other social events are being thrown, if the older women of the Ton who are putting those events together need another eligible man to make sure that the numbers of the guests are even, he is always invited. Gregory is late to arrive to a party which is being thrown by Kate at Bridgerton House in London. This is before the season has officially started, but there are still social events that are happening. Anthony takes Gregory aside to give him a bit of a lecture about how Gregory needs to have diligence and direction in his life. And he also guilt trips Gregory for being late to a party that Kate is throwing, so he insists that Gregory go find Kate and make nice with her. Gregory goes out into the party and he sees a woman and he decides that he has fallen in love with her. Doesn't know her name, doesn't know anything about her, but he sees her and goes, yes, that's her. So he goes over to introduce himself to her and he says, how do you do? And this is when we meet Lady Lucinda Abernathy, who goes by the name Lucy. This is Gregory's endgame love interest. However, the woman that Gregory has fixated his attention on and decided he has fallen in love with is Lucy's best friend. Oh yes, romance girlies. Gregory is a disaster. Did I or did I not tell you that this book is for the people who want a front row seat to mess? Now I will elaborate a bit more on this, but I want to first address the fact that I have seen some sentiments expressed here and there in my video comments. It's a mixed bag in regards to Gregory the family himbo Bridgerton. Lucy tries to matchmake Gregory with her best friend for reasons you don't need to know right this second, but while you as the reader are privy to Gregory's thoughts, you will hear him think things about how he does not think of Lucy in that way. And that's not normally the train of thought you would expect to read when you're picking up a new romance story to explore. I understand why some readers get annoyed with Gregory, chaos personified Bridgerton, for not immediately falling at the feet of his endgame love interest. I'm not faulting your reaction if that's how you earnestly felt when you read this book. However, I did not mind it because I don't read source material books that were published in the 21st century with an expectation of them needing to win me over as a standalone work of fiction. I read these types of more recently written and published source material books for research, and to gauge how much or how little I would choose to carry over in an adaptation I either haven't seen or in this case hasn't even been made yet. It took very little time of starting to read this book for me to see the potential in the material as a starting point for building what a Gregory Bridgerton season could look like on the show. In short, I went, this has she's the man energy. A doofus man who believes himself to be in love with one woman, but he hardly knows her.
Do you like cheese?
And in actuality, it's the woman whom he spends more time with and really gets to know that is the better match for him.
Let's get up. I want to try something where I'm gonna act like a girl and you're gonna talk to me, okay?
Ew, do I have to?
Now, the stories are not a one-to-one comparison. Lucy Abernathy is not dressing in boy drag. No one is playing football. But more so, the energy and humor, the comedic Shakespearean misunderstanding of it all. You need to remember that we're dealing with comedy Shakespeare, not tragedy Shakespeare. That's the specific flavor of storytelling I thought of when I began to familiarize myself with the main players and relationship dynamics in the first chunk of this book. That is how quickly I locked in to what this story could be if you were to adapt it for either a 7th or 8th season of Bridgerton.
You see the difference? All right, I'll show you guys.
Now, Lucy's best friend is called Hermione Watson. I'm going to just let that name sit with you for a moment. And I'm never going to say it again. Unless we find out for sure what they will do for a Gregory season. Now, this is just my personal opinion, but I think that the name is too embedded in the cultural zeitgeist in association with a franchise that must not be named. So for the rest of this video, I will be referring to Lucy Abernathy's best friend as Olivia Lennox.
Olivia Lennox.
Oh, you know her?
Lucy has been raised under the guardianship of her uncle, and she also has an older brother. They have enough of an age difference that he was away at school, and Lucy was often home alone without anyone to keep her company in any sort of meaningful way for things like affection. Now, it's not as if she and her brother don't get along now, but you have to think about how if you are experiencing loneliness during a younger age, a more formative period of your development, it's going to influence you in a different way in regards to the person you are going to be shaped into. When Lucy went away to high society's lady finishing school, whatever you would like to call it, this is where she met Olivia Lennox, and the two became fast friends. Not only that, Olivia Lennox's family took her in, and Olivia's mother was also willing to be her sponsor or her guardian in Lucy being able to debut in society, something like that. Lucy has spent time with this family, and she's very grateful to them for the kindness they have shown towards her. Lucy is already in a sort of arranged engagement to a man named Lord Hasselby, whom she's met a couple of times. This is an engagement that's been arranged by her uncle and Lord Hasselby's father. There is a lot more drama involved with that, which we are not going to get into, because this is only an introduction video, so we can get an idea of what we might be looking for in who Gregory becomes on the show. We have no idea yet if they're going to introduce Gregory or Hyacinth's endgame love interests before their seasons. The seasons that haven't even been officially greenlit yet. Olivia Lennox tells Lucy that she fancies herself in love with her father's secretary, a man named Mr. Edmonds. There is no way that Olivia Lennox's parents will approve of her marrying a commoner, a man with a real job instead of something high society men do, like be a parasitic landlord.
Death. Death to the enemies of the people of the Republic.
Lucy has trauma from her upbringing and believes that Olivia is foolish for believing she can end up with a man with a real job. So Lucy resolves to matchmake Olivia with Gregory because he's of the correct societal standing, but also the more time that Lucy spends with Gregory, the more she notices how appealing he is to her as a person. Now back to this Gregory walking disaster Bridgerton, not a meet cute with Lucy. He is approaching Olivia Lennox because he fancies himself to be in insta-love with her. But Lucy clocks him immediately, and she tells him that he is not the first man to fancy himself in love with Olivia. It happens all the time, actually. And it's hilarious. It's comedy. And I am someone who always wants Bridgerton to put more comedy on the show.
Hey, Duke. Sebastian.
Olivia?
Olivia.
Lucy clumsily attempts to help Gregory win her over, but naturally, things don't go according to plan. Lucy and Gregory's relationship is a combination of she fell first but he fell harder, as well as the idiots in love trope. When you have access, as a reader, to Gregory's thoughts, if you really pay attention, you can observe that his interest in Lucy and his observation of her appealing qualities increase over time, but it's more of a subconscious thing, so if you're reading the subtext of what's happening in his thoughts, you can see that he's on a journey towards falling in love with her, but he's a himbo, so he doesn't know that this is happening until later than he should, of all that is going on inside of himself. The thing about Book Gregory is that you can always tell that he's not malicious or mean-spirited. He's not prone to cartoonish displays of archaic ideas of how a man should behave. There's no macho posturing the way that some of the other men in these books have done.
Take it away before I gag.
Now, that doesn't mean that you as a reader are going to approve of everything he does. If you go and get this book from the library, you might read it and be thinking to yourself, Gregory, you idiot, get it together, do better for your lady love.
Like 2020.
But isn't it fun sometimes to watch a disastrous man clumsily fumble his way through trying to win over the woman of his dreams?
Mine is an idiot. But it's my idiot.
Another detail to note is that Kate, more or less instantly, takes a liking to Lucy, and Gregory notices this. He thinks to himself that Kate's approval of Lucy means something because Kate has never suffered fools, gladly or otherwise. And Kate proceeds to try to pair Gregory up with Lucy, which is hilarious and also accurate because, of course, she would be smarter than everyone involved here.
You think too much about it.
And you too little.
If the show lasts all the way to a Gregory season, I do hope that they let Katani and Anthony be involved in the love story this way. If Simone Ashley is too busy with another job, then fair enough. She should be hired and kept in the final cut of the film. I'm looking at you, F1. We could have seen Damson Idris and Simone Ashley doing scenes together. I'm pretty sure that's what we were supposed to get anyway. But did we get that in the end? Nope.
Sharon Tate was the last to die.
When Gregory tells Kate that he's not interested in Lucy, but her best friend, Kate seems resigned, as if she's heard all of this before. And when I read this, I thought to myself, it would be hilarious if Gregory were to be embarrassed at the idea of being seen as basic and pedestrian by Katani because he values her opinion.
It's nothing embarrassing, not anything like, baton twirling or anything. So, what's your talent?
And if all of this weren't messy enough on its own, Lucy's brother, Richard, shows up, and he's yet another man who is in love with Olivia Lennox. Do you see what I mean? It's very Shakespearean comedy. People are declaring or failing to conceal whom they're in love with, but everything is threaded together in such a way that it's a tangled mess. One that is really fun to watch. Now, you could make that funny and comedic, just a delightful season of mayhem and mischief, but of course, have plenty of romance along the way. And I also think that if it were to be the last love story on the show, it could be a nice way to leave the audience with a message that insta-love can be exciting, especially when it's a work of fiction that you are watching play out with lights, camera angles, the musical score, everything that is going to enhance the impact of how it looks and, in turn, how it makes you feel. But ultimately, you should get to know people and deepen your understanding of each other's character, and that would be the path towards true love.
Maybe if I'd have known you were a girl, we wouldn't have talked like we did. And got to know each other the same way.
Now, there is so much drama and mess that happens in this book, and there is plenty of potential for a really fun season that could feel highly reminiscent of the iconic 1990s, 2000s era of modern literary adaptations. We're talking 10 Things I Hate About You, She's the Man. That's very much the vibe I would want to see for a Gregory Bridgerton season. Trying to play matchmaker, people having feelings for the wrong person, highly memorable banter, a disastrous himbo as the main man of the story.
It's just my luck. No. I mean, I didn't mean it like that. It's just, she's,
A few moments later.
Okay, I think that was one ticket's worth.
No, you got a little bit more.
Now, there is a certain amount of scheming required for Gregory to do to get his happily ever after with Lucy, so he's not a character that is completely devoid of sense or intelligence. But of course, we are far away from having an idea of how close of an adaptation Gregory's season would be. The show has had a fair bit of variety in how similar or dissimilar the seasons have been to their books. The main thing I would look out for at this stage is how Gregory's personality gets further developed on the show. We have had very limited glimpses of his character in these first 3.5 seasons, but commenters on my videos let me know that there was an interview clip of the youngest Bridgerton actors talking about their characters, and Will had said that he's supposed to have a crush on someone in the back half of season 4.
Gregory has a little crush this season. Just a little. Yeah, I don't want to say too much though, because I don't want to get in trouble. But
Okay.
yeah, he fancies someone for the first time. Yeah, excited for people to see Gregory just like all head over heels.
Do you reckon that's Gregory's first crush?
I think so. Yeah, I don't know who else he'd have fancied.
I like that.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Let's get a sense of what sort of personality this crush has. What is it about her that Gregory is drawn to? And has he, in fact, been biased towards having an extremely optimistic view of how things go in finding your happily ever after love? He wouldn't have memories of his parents together, but they were a love match. All of his married siblings have love matches. Violet does favor her unmarried children towards finding love matches of their own, even when she is trying to aggressively matchmake them into finding whomever that person is. If you spend the next 2 or 3.5 seasons endearing us to Gregory, make him a lovable disaster, you will set him up for success when we would potentially be watching him fumbling and crashing his way through his love story.
Closer.
And please, I beg of you, do not make us watch him be a nasty rake in the lead up to his season. We are so tired. Truly, we are exhausted of rakes. I want to see a himbo with a heart of gold. I want to see a Shakespearean comedy. Now, with Hyacinth's story, there were very specific things that I mentioned for us to look out for because her love interest is Lady Danbury's grandson. Her speaking Italian is a key part of the story. By the time she reaches her book, she is bored of the social events, whereas we already see her on the show as a person who is excited to debut, so there's a possibility of an arc that would span the next 2 or so seasons, of her enjoying society at first, and then getting bored with it to lead her to become the version of her that we saw in the book. Now with Gregory, it's really about his personality and his perspective about love. We are going to follow him through even more happily ever afters, which shape who he is in the book. Someone who just assumes, well, of course I am going to fall madly in love. Love is absolutely real. And that's refreshing. It's different. It's unusual.
We're gonna go Troppo this weekend. Hit up the Terps out here, eh? It's gonna be a cracker.
Woo! But if you are curious about this book, you have multiple years to fit this in. None of the Bridgerton books are written with an extremely formal or complicated writing style. They've all been quite fast for me to read through when researching for covering the show here on my channel. If you haven't read it before or you would like to do a reread to refresh yourself on the material, I would specifically say to read this through the lens of imagining it as a starting point for an adaptation with a tilt in the direction of being a Shakespearean comedy. Think She's the Man, 10 Things I Hate About You. Put those films on the mood board with the book when you are imagining what a Gregory season could be if we make it that far. And I think we'll have a lot of fun talking about this book in further detail if and when they renew the show for the last 2 Bridgertons to be able to have seasons of their own. We still have a lot of Benedict and Sophie material to talk about. Those are videos that are going to be releasing throughout March, And then presumably we will transition into talking more about Eloise's season, since all of us are assuming she's going to be season 5. If for some reason they switch the order though, and Francesca is season 5, then absolutely we will jump into talking about her story.
MLM, Marxism, Leninism, Maoism, flip it around, walla. Women loving women.
I've been thinking about this, and if I go through the upcoming season's book during the off season, we could use that as a way to check in with each other on what it is that we're reading. If you watch my videos consistently, you know that I am very determined to promote libraries, so I am perfectly happy to use Bridgerton as yet another way of doing that. We are going to library book our way through these long years of waiting to possibly reach a Gregory Bridgerton season. And I do hope we reach this story because I want to see a whimsical Shakespearean comedy in this universe.
Hello.